The 2020s have been straight up chaos. We kicked off the decade with crowning a champion in Disney World. No fans, no travel, just pure, raw basketball. And since then, everything's been up for grabs. 4 different MVPs in 6 years, super teams collapsing, 50-point playoff explosions, an 8 seed making the finals, and a 7'4" alien from France showed up like a my player on 2K. The Bucks finally got their parade for the first time in 50 years. The Warriors' dynasty was reshaped and revived, getting one last ring. The Nuggets proved the Jokic era is very real. And the Celtics finally got over the hump and won their first ring since 2008. But even with all of that, nobody pulled off a more impressive rebuild than the Thunder. After pulling off one of the greatest trade heists in NBA history, walking out of that Paul George trade with SGA, they stacked picks, drafted smart, and went from winning just 24 games in 2022 to winning a championship just 3 years later. The Thunder are deep, young, and absolutely terrifying. And as if the league wasn't crazy enough, LeBron is still playing at a high level in his 40s, and Luka Doncic was just traded in the middle of his prime. So yeah, all of this madness has happened in just half a decade. So today, we're gonna recap every season of the 2020s, broken down season by season, and make sense of the madness. The 2020 NBA season was going just fine, until it wasn't. LeBron and AD had the Lakers rolling. LeBron in year 17 reinvented himself as a pure playmaker who led the league in assists for the first time in his career. Anthony Davis was dominating both ends, reminding everyone why he was considered one of the most talented bigs ever. The Lakers were sitting atop the West, beating contenders regularly, and looked like title favorites. Giannis was a regular season wrecking ball. The Bucks were mowing down everyone, sprinting to a 53-12 record before the shutdown. Giannis was on his way to a second straight MVP, stuffing the stat sheet, anchoring an elite defense, and looking virtually unstoppable in the open court. People were already penciling Milwaukee into the finals. The Clippers looked like a legit super team with Kawhi and PG. Kawhi was coming off his Toronto title run. Paul George was supposed to be the perfect co-star, and their defense with Pat Bev and Montrezl Harrell had teams scared. On paper, they were the team built to stop LeBron. But there were other stories too. The Rockets doubled down on small ball after trading Clint Capella mid-season, turning PJ Tucker into a full-time center. The Pelicans, despite dealing with injuries, saw the long-awaited debut of Zion Williamson, who averaged 22 a night in just 24 minutes, showing flashes of dominance. The Thunder, who were supposed to be rebuilding after trading Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul, shocked everyone by winning 44 games, with SGA emerging as a budding star, and rookie Ja Morant lit up Memphis, earning Rookie of the Year while dragging the Grizzlies into the playoff hunt. But then, Rudy Gobert jokingly touched a few microphones on March 11th, and boom, the NBA shuts down. COVID hits, and suddenly, basketball's not just on pause, it's completely off the grid. Games were canceled, practice facilities were closed, players were quarantined at home. For months, nobody even knew if the season was coming back. There was real talk of just canceling it outright and moving to 2021. But then, the league cooked up something completely insane, and somehow it worked. The bubble. 22 teams were invited, quarantined at Disney World, daily testing, no fans, no home court advantage, just raw hoops, hotel rooms, and Jimmy Butler selling $20 coffee out of his hotel suite. And with all the distractions stripped away, some guys went crazy. TJ Warren turned into prime MJ for like 2 weeks, dropping 53 on Philly, putting up 39 on the Lakers, and averaging over 26 points per game in the bubble. The Suns also shocked everyone, going 8-0 in the bubble. Devin Booker looked like a superstar hitting a game winner over Paul George and Kawhi. They stayed mathematically alive for the playoffs until the very last day. They might have had some interesting team bonding activities rumored to be going on off the court, but we won't get into more detail on that. Dame went nuclear, averaging 37 and carrying Portland into the playoffs after a tense play-in battle with Memphis. His 61-point game against Dallas was legendary. Luka officially announced himself as the future of the league, hitting that iconic step-back buzzer beater over Reggie Jackson and the Clippers, all while dealing with a sprained ankle. And Jamal Murray vs. Donovan Mitchell? That was an instant classic. Two young stars going back and forth in a first-round duel for the ages, both dropping multiple 50-point games, including Murray's emotional 50-point masterpiece in Game 6. But no meltdown hit harder than the Clippers. Up 3-1 on Denver, series locked. Everyone ready for that inevitable Lakers-Clippers showdown in the WCF. And then they folded. Kawhi disappeared in Game 7, shooting 6 for 22. Pandemic P was in full effect. The Nuggets, behind Jokic's ridiculous passing and Murray's scoring flurries, completed one of the wildest comebacks ever. Meanwhile, the Heat became the bubble's biggest surprise. Jimmy Butler, Bam, and rookie Tyler Hero ran through the East. They took down Giannis and the Bucks in 5, with Bam putting Giannis in jail and Butler dominating crunch time. Then they shut down Tatum and the Celtics, with Hero dropping 37 in Game 4. A star-making performance. Miami wasn't just a Cinderella story, they were legit. But in the end, this was LeBron's year. He was on a mission. Year 17, still the best player in the world, orchestrating the Lakers like a point guard and locking in defensively when it mattered. AD was a monster, averaging 25 and 10 in the playoffs, blocking shots and hitting clutch mid-range jumpers. The Lakers rolled through Portland, Houston, and Denver, and then took down the Heat in 6. LeBron averaged nearly a triple-double in the finals and won his 4th ring, 4th Finals MVP, and became the first player to win Finals MVP on 3 different teams. People still debate the bubble. Was it harder? Easier? Legit? Here's the truth. It was raw. It was weird. It could have been called a Mickey Mouse ring, but in the end, it brought some unforgettable moments. The 2021 NBA season was chaos from the start. The league didn't even have a normal offseason, as it was just 72 days between the Lakers winning the bubble title and opening night. To put it into perspective, most offseasons are around 130 days, so players were exhausted. Stars were sitting out back-to-backs. COVID protocols still caused constant lineup changes, but even with all the weirdness, the season gave us some incredible storylines. The regular season belonged to the Utah Jazz and Phoenix Suns. Utah finished with the best record in the league behind Donovan Mitchell's scoring and Rudy Gobert's defense. They were bombing threes at a historic rate, with guys like Bojan Bogdanovic and Joe Ingles lighting it up. And 6th Man of the Year Jordan Clarkson giving them instant offense every night. The Suns, meanwhile, looked like a completely different team. Chris Paul arrived in a blockbuster offseason trade from OKC and instantly turned them into contenders. Devin Booker thrived as a scorer. DeAndre Ayton embraced his role as a defensive anchor, and Phoenix became one of the most balanced teams in basketball. The defending champion Lakers looked dominant early, until they weren't. LeBron was an MVP frontrunner until a high ankle sprain sidelined him for weeks. Anthony Davis battled calf and Achilles issues. By the time the playoffs started, they were limping in as a 7 seed, far from the juggernaut they were a year earlier. Meanwhile, the Brooklyn Nets became the team everyone feared. The Nets made the league's biggest midseason splash, trading Chris LeVert, Jared Allen, and multiple picks to land James Harden when healthy, they looked like a cheat code and the most dangerous offensive team in years. People were already penciling them into the finals. The Nets' big three barely played together in the regular season, but when they were on the court, they looked absolutely unstoppable. There were surprises too. Julius Randle broke out as an all-star and most improved player, leading the Knicks to their first playoff berth since 2013. LaMelo Ball was dazzling as a rookie in Charlotte, throwing flashy passes and winning Rookie of the Year despite missing time with a wrist injury. And Michael Porter Jr. quietly blossomed into a scoring machine for Denver after Jamal Murray's torn ACL. But then came the playoffs and everything went off script. The first round gave us some wild moments. Trae Young became public enemy number 1 in New York, shushing the Madison Square Garden crowd and torching the Knicks in his playoff debut. Luka Doncic had the Clippers on the ropes again, dropping multiple 40-point games, but Kawhi Leonard went into Terminator mode, forcing a Game 7 and carrying LA through. And the Suns ended the Lakers' title defense early with Booker dropping 47 in Game 6 while LeBron couldn't save him this time. And in the second round, instant classic series everywhere. The Bucks and Nets delivered one of the greatest playoff duels ever. Kevin Durant had maybe the best game of his career in Game 5, a 49-point triple-double while playing all 48 minutes. He nearly ended Milwaukee in Game 7, hitting that insane turnaround jumper to force overtime, but his foot was literally on the line. Inches away from eliminating the Bucks barely survived and advanced to the ECF. Out west, the Jazz fell apart against the Clippers despite being up 2-0. Kawhi tore his ACL mid-series, but Paul George shook off the pandemic P-jokes and played his best basketball in years, dropping 37 in a huge Game 5. And the Suns swept Denver easily, with Chris Paul turning back the clock, including a 37-point masterclass in the closeout game. The conference finals were even crazier. The Hawks stunned everyone by beating the 1-seed Sixers. Ben Simmons completely collapsed offensively, refusing to take open shots, and Trae Young hit big shots to steal the series. That series essentially ended the Ben Simmons era in Philly. The Bucks took down the Hawks in 6 even after Giannis hyperextended his knee in Game 4. Chris Middleton stepped up as the closer, and Jrue Holiday locked down defensively to punch Milwaukee's ticket to the finals. In the West, the Suns outlasted the Clippers. Without Kawhi, LA just didn't have enough, even though Paul George kept them competitive. Chris Paul dropped 41 in Game 6 to finally clinch his first career finals appearance after 16 years. Then came the finals, Bucks vs Suns. Phoenix looked ready to take it all, winning the first 2 games behind Booker scoring in CP3's mid-range wizardry. But Giannis had other plans. After that gruesome-looking knee injury, he came back and put on one of the greatest finals performances ever, averaging 35, 13, and 5 over the series. Giannis' closeout Game 6 was one of the best performances in NBA Finals history. He dropped 30 points, grabbed 14 rebounds, blocked 5 shots, and hit 17 of 19 free throws. The Bucks won their first title in 50 years, and of course, Giannis was crowned Finals MVP. The 2021 season was weird, messy, and unpredictable, but it gave us one undeniable truth. Giannis Antetokounmpo officially became an all-time great. The 2022 NBA season felt like the league finally got back to normal, but the storylines were anything but predictable. The regular season belonged to 2 names, Jokic and the Suns. Nikola Jokic somehow topped his MVP season from 2021. With Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. both injured, he carried Denver by himself, averaging 27, 14, and 8, and posting one of the greatest advanced stats seasons in history. He won his second straight MVP, becoming the first center since Shaq to do so. Meanwhile, the Suns looked like a well-oiled machine. Coming off their finals loss, they dominated the regular season, finishing with a league-best 64-18 record. Chris Paul orchestrated everything. Devin Booker scored effortlessly, and DeAndre Ayton played his role perfectly. They were the clear favorites heading into the playoffs, but the other contenders were lurking. The Warriors' big three were finally healthy again. Andrew Wiggins blossomed into an all-star for the first time in his career, and Jordan Poole emerged as one of the league's most improved young guards, averaging 18 a night. The defending champion Milwaukee Bucks still had Giannis dominating every night, and Jrue Holiday quietly put together one of his best two-way seasons. The Celtics transformed mid-season into the league's best defense under Ime Udoka, with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown turning into a terrifying duo. Marcus Smart's defensive brilliance earned him Defensive Player of the Year. The Ja Morant-led Grizzlies announced themselves as a future powerhouse with the 56-win season. Ja became a first-time All-Star and Most Improved Player, while Desmond Bane took a big leap as an elite scorer. In Cleveland, Darius Garland emerged as an All-Star, and rookie Evan Mobley showed flashes of being a future Defensive Player of the Year. Then came the playoffs and the chaos. The first round had its moments, but nothing too shocking, except for one thing. Brooklyn got swept. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who were the preseason title favorites for some, were embarrassed by Boston. The Celtics' defense smothered KD, holding him to just 38% shooting. That series officially ended the Nets' super team experiment. The second round, though, legendary. The Bucks' first Celtics series was a war. Giannis put up absurd numbers: 33 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists a game, including a 42-point, 12-rebound masterpiece in Game 3. But Boston's defense held, and Tatum dropped 46 in a must-win Game 6 before closing it out in Game 7. And then there was Suns vs Mavericks, which gave us one of the biggest meltdowns in recent memory. Luka Doncic completely dismantled Phoenix, trolling them on the court and smiling after every bucket. Game 7 in Phoenix, Luka had 27 points by halftime, the same as the entire Suns team. Dallas blew them out by 33, ending the Suns' dream season in humiliating fashion. Over in the West, the Warriors took care of Memphis, but not without drama. Ja Morant had a 47-point explosion in Game 2 before going down with a knee injury. Golden State then handled Dallas in 5, with Wiggins throwing down a dunk of the year over Luka in Game 3. The conference finals set up a new era versus old guard showdown. The Celtics and Heat battled to 7 games in the East. Jimmy Butler put up 47 in Game 6 to save Miami's season, but Boston survived Game 7 thanks to Tatum's composure and Marcus Smart's defense. Jimmy had a chance to win it with a pull-up 3 in the final seconds, but it rimmed out. The Warriors and Mavericks wasn't nearly as close. Steph Curry controlled the series, winning the inaugural Magic Johnson Western Conference Finals MVP. Then came the finals, Warriors vs Celtics. Boston stole Game 1 behind Al Horford's surprising 26-point performance, but the series quickly became the Steph Curry show. Game 4 was his masterpiece: 43 points, 10 rebounds, hitting impossible threes to even the series. From that point on, Golden State's experience took over. Wiggins was a defensive monster on Tatum, and the Warriors closed it out in 6. Steph finally earned his first Finals MVP, silencing every critic who said he couldn't carry a team on the biggest stage. It was the Warriors' 4th championship in 8 years, cementing their dynasty status. The 2022 season was the year of redemption. Steph reminded everyone he's still an all-time great. Luka announced himself as a future MVP. Tatum and the Celtics proved they're legit contenders, and the league officially moved into a new era, where the old guard still wasn't ready to let go, but the young stars were in fact closing in fast. The 2023 NBA season was the year of surprises. New stars breaking through, old powers falling apart, and one of the most improbable championship runs we've seen in years. The regular season gave us one clear takeaway: parity was back. The West was wide open. Denver finally had Jamal Murray healthy, Nikola Jokic was still putting up video game numbers, and they finished with the number 1 seed. Memphis kept climbing behind Ja Morant until his off-court drama with the infamous nightclub incident made headlines and cost him games. The Kings shocked everyone by becoming the 3 seed, snapping a 16-year playoff drought behind De'Aaron Fox's all-star leap and Domantas Sabonis turning into a triple-double machine. The Lakers completely reshaped their roster at the trade deadline, flipping Russell Westbrook for D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley, a move that instantly made him competitive. The Suns, meanwhile, made the blockbuster move of the season, trading for Kevin Durant at the deadline, instantly becoming title favorites, at least on paper. Out east, the Bucks were dominant again, with Giannis playing at an MVP level and Milwaukee finishing with the league's best record. Joel Embiid, however, finally grabbed his first MVP after leading the league in scoring for the 2nd straight season. The Celtics stayed elite with Jason Tatum putting together his best year yet, and the 76ers for once looked like legitimate contenders, with James Harden embracing a facilitator role. The Cavaliers quietly posted 51 wins with Donovan Mitchell thriving in his first year in Cleveland, including a ridiculous 71-point game that had everyone talking. And in Orlando, Rookie of the Year Paolo Banchero gave Magic fans hope for the future. But as always, the regular season didn't tell the full story. The playoffs were madness. The first round delivered upsets right away. The Miami Heat, who barely made it through the play-in, shocked the world by destroying the 1-seed Bucks. Giannis got hurt early in the series, but Jimmy didn't care, dropping 58 points in Game 4 and 42 in Game 5 in one of the greatest individual playoff series ever. The Lakers, after a disastrous start to their season, retooled at the trade deadline and upset the Grizzlies in 6. LeBron turned back the clock, and AD looked like the best defensive player in the world. The Kings vs. Warriors series became instant classic status. The Kings, who shockingly were the 3 seed, making their first playoff appearance in 16 years, pushed the defending champs to 7 games. De'Aaron Fox played like a superstar, but Steph reminded everyone who runs the league, dropping 50 in Game 7, which at the time was the highest scoring Game 7 performance in NBA history. The second round only got crazier. The Lakers handled the defending champion Warriors, with AD dominating inside and LeBron picking apart Golden State's defense. Denver quietly handled its business, taking down Phoenix in 6 despite Booker and KD's scoring explosions. Jokic dropped a casual 53 in Game 4, then sealed the series with a 32-point, 10-rebound, 12-assist triple-double in Game 6 to send the Suns to Cancun. In the East, the Heat kept rolling, taking down the Knicks in 6 behind Jimmy's steady heroics. The Celtics vs. Sixers matchup, though, was peak drama. Philly took a 3-2 lead behind Harden's clutch performances in Game 1 and 4, but then disappeared when it mattered most. Game 7, Jason Tatum erupted for 51 points, breaking Steph's 2-week-old Game 7 record and sending Boston to the conference finals again. The conference finals gave us 2 very different stories. In the West, Denver ended the Lakers' Cinderella run with a sweep. Jokic was unstoppable, averaging a triple-double for the series and hitting ridiculous step-back threes over AD. Murray finally looked fully healthy, dropping 37 in Game 2. The East, pure chaos. Miami jumped to a shocking 3-0 lead over Boston, with Caleb Martin turning into an unexpected star. But the Celtics refused to die, forcing a Game 7 after Derek White's miracle tip-in at the buzzer in Game 6, one of the craziest playoff finishes ever. Game 7 in Boston, though, belonged to Miami. Tatum suffered an ankle injury on the first play of the game. Caleb Martin scored 26, Jimmy Butler closed the door, and the Heat became just the second 8 seed in history to ever reach the finals. Then came the NBA Finals, Nuggets vs. Heat. Miami fought hard, stealing Game 2 behind Gabe Vincent's hot shooting, but this was Denver's year. Jokic dominated every game, putting up 30-point triple-doubles like they were nothing, and Murray thrived as his co-star. Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown played massive roles on both ends. Game 5 sealed it. Denver closed out Miami 94-89, winning its first NBA championship in franchise history. Jokic, of course, won Finals MVP, averaging 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists across the series. The 2023 season was a changing of the guard. Jokic officially entered the best player in the league conversation, if not solidified it. Jimmy Butler proved once again he's built for the playoffs. LeBron showed he can still play at an elite level, but the young stars were quietly knocking on the door. And for the first time in years, the league truly felt wide open. The 2024 NBA season felt like a giant reset button was hit. Super teams were fading, new faces were rising, and for the first time in a long time, there was no obvious favorite heading into the playoffs. The regular season belonged to youth and parity. Nikola Jokic was still ridiculous, posting another MVP season, but it was SGA who really stole the show. Shea averaged over 30 points, led the Thunder to the #1 seed in the West, and officially became a superstar. OKC, with its core of Shea, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, suddenly looked like a contender way ahead of schedule. Josh Giddey's playmaking and Isaiah Joe's sharpshooting gave them depth most didn't expect this early in their rebuild. The Timberwolves were the biggest surprise in the West. Anthony Edwards took a leap into all-NBA territory, and Minnesota became an elite defensive team with Rudy Gobert anchoring the paint and Jaden McDaniels emerging as one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball. And even though the Spurs weren't anywhere near contention, Victor Wembanyama was must-see TV every night. The 7'4" rookie phenom averaged over 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks, had multiple highlight reel sequences, and instantly became one of the league's most feared rim protectors, a future superstar in the making. The Nuggets remained dangerous but dealt with Jamal Murray injuries throughout the year, forcing Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. to step up in bigger roles. The Warriors and Lakers were still hanging around, but both teams looked older and far less consistent than years past. Out east, Jason Tatum and the Celtics dominated from wire to wire. Adding Kristaps and Drew in the offseason gave them the best starting five in basketball, and Tatum played like an MVP for most of the season. Jaylen Brown also had one of his best two-way seasons, and Derek White quietly turned into one of the league's best role players. The Bucks, however, stumbled after trading for Damian Lillard. Their defense regressed, and chemistry issues lingered despite Giannis still being his usual dominant self. The Knicks, led by Jalen Brunson's breakout year, looked like a legitimate threat, while the Cavs stayed strong behind Donovan Mitchell's scoring and Evan Mobley's defensive leap. The Heat coasted most of the year, only to attempt to gear up for another playoff push. Then came the playoffs, and it was pure chaos. The Warriors couldn't get out of the play-in. The Lakers fell to Denver in 5, with LeBron and AD simply outmatched by Jokic's brilliance. The Knicks handled the Sixers in 6, with Brunson averaging 35 for the series, while the Pacers beat Milwaukee in 6, although Giannis missed the series with a calf injury. The second round gave us some of the best basketball of the decade. The Timberwolves vs Nuggets series was an instant classic. Anthony Edwards went toe-to-toe with Jokic, exploding for 43 in Game 1 and setting the tone early. Minnesota's defense hounded Denver all series, and despite Jokic putting up monster numbers, 28, 11, and 8 on absurd efficiency, the Wolves' depth and Ant's fearlessness proved too much. Edwards sealed it with a dominant Game 7 performance, sending the defending champs home. The Thunder vs Mavericks matchup was Luka Doncic's show. Despite OKC's strong defense, Luka averaged a near triple-double and outdueled Shea in a statement series, sending the young Thunder home in 6. Out east, the Knicks vs Pacers series revived an old-school rivalry. Jalen Brunson was heroic, averaging 32 points and dragging New York into every game, but injuries piled up fast. OG Anunoby went down early in the series with a lingering hamstring issue. Julius Randle was already out, and Mitchell Robinson couldn't stay on the floor. By Game 7, Brunson was running on fumes, and Indiana's depth and pace, fueled by Tyrese Haliburton's playmaking and Pascal Siakam's versatility, simply overwhelmed the short-handed Knicks, closing it out in 7. Meanwhile, the Celtics took down the Cavs pretty comfortably, with Tatum and Jaylen Brown overwhelming Donovan Mitchell and a Cleveland team still lacking playoff experience. The conference finals set the stage for two very different storylines. In the West, Mavericks vs Timberwolves became the Luka vs Ant show. Both dropped multiple 40-point games, but Luka's poise and Kyrie Irving's clutch shot-making sealed it in 5. The defining moment, Luka drilled a cold-blooded game winner right over Rudy Gobert in Game 2, silencing Minnesota's crowd and swinging the series. Dallas, once seen as a mess after the Kyrie trade, was heading back to the finals for the first time since 2011. In the East, the Celtics vs Pacers wasn't close. Tatum dominated, averaging 30 for the series, while Derek White and Drew Holiday suffocated Halliburton defensively. Boston closed it out in 5, finally breaking through after years of near misses. Then came the NBA Finals, Celtics vs Mavericks. For all the hype about Luka's magical run, Boston proved why they were the best team in basketball. Their size, depth, and defense overwhelmed Dallas. Drew Holiday locked in on Kyrie. Jaylen Brown hounded Luka every possession, and the whole team came up huge on both ends. The defining moment came in Game 3, when Brown dropped 30 with multiple clutch buckets to give Boston a 3-0 lead. Dallas stole Game 4 behind Luka's 29 points, but Boston closed it out in 5. Jaylen Brown, not Jason Tatum, won Finals MVP, averaging 20+ while locking down defensively. For Boston, it was redemption, their first championship since 2008, and a dominant playoff run in recent memory, losing just 3 games their entire playoff run and no series going past 5 games. The 2024 season felt like a turning point. Luka proved he was one of the best players alive. Ant and Shea announced themselves as future MVPs. Wemby lived up to the hype as the most exciting rookie in years, and Boston finally capitalized on its years of knocking on the door. The league's future had officially arrived. The 2025 NBA season was the official changing of the guard. For years, we talked about the next generation taking over. This season, it actually happened. The regular season belonged to 2 teams, one we expected and one we didn't. The Oklahoma City Thunder were ridiculous. Shea played like the best player on the planet, averaging over 32 a night, winning MVP, and carrying OKC to a 68-14 record, the best in franchise history. But this wasn't just Shea. Jalen Williams became a legitimate second option and a young star in front of our eyes, while Chet anchored the defense. The Thunder weren't just led by their big 3. They were deep, long, fast, and an absolute nightmare to play every night. Then there was the team we didn't expect to be this good, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who quietly dominate the East with a 64-18 record. Donovan Mitchell scoring at will, Evan Mobley locking up everything defensively and winning Defensive Player of the Year. They looked like a team built for a deep run. Finally, behind them, the usual suspects hovered. Boston cruising to another 60-win season, Indiana playing with wild offensive pace behind Tyrese Halliburton, and the Knicks grinding their way into another top 3 finish in the East behind another All-NBA caliber by Jalen Brunson and his new sidekicks in Cat and Mikal Bridges. We can't talk about this 2025 season without mentioning the blockbuster trade that shook the league mid-season. The Lakers sent Anthony Davis to the Mavs for Luka Doncic. The deal stunned everyone. Nico Harrison, who was frustrated with Luka's defensive effort, weight issues, and having to give Luka an upcoming Supermax deal, wanted a fresh start, and the Lakers believed pairing him with LeBron would give him one last shot at a title. The fit? It looked messy at times. Luka still put up video game numbers, but defensively the Lakers were a mess, and they slid into the 6th seed by season's end. Dallas, meanwhile, fully embraced a rebuild around AD and their younger core. The Thunder, Nuggets, and the Timberwolves kept pace out west, but this still just felt like Oklahoma City's year from the moment the season tipped. Then the playoffs started, and chaos took over. The first round went mostly as expected. OKC smoked Memphis. Cleveland handled Miami easily, but the 6-seeded Minnesota handled the Luka LeBron Lakers in 5. The Knicks rolled past a young and upcoming Cade-led Pistons squad, and the Pacers-Bucks playoff rematch went back in Indiana's way. The second round gave us one of the biggest upsets of the year. Indiana stunned the Cavs in 5 games, shredding Cleveland's top-ranked defense and sending the East's top seed home early. New York took down Boston in 6 games, although Tatum went down with an Achilles tear in Game 4. Out west, OKC battled a feisty Nuggets squad in 7 games, and Minnesota outlasted the 7-seeded Warriors, who managed to upset the 2-seeded Rockets last round but couldn't hang against the Wolves, especially without Steph most of this series. The conference finals were a showcase of the league's future. West, Shea versus Ant. Edwards had his moments, a 46-point Game 3 to keep Minnesota alive, but OKC's depth overwhelmed the Wolves. Chet everything. Jalen Williams scored efficiently, and the Thunder closed it out in 5. The 2025 Eastern Conference Finals felt like a throwback. Knicks versus Pacers, the two underdogs who had clawed their way past the top seeds, and from the very start, it was chaos. Game 1 at Madison Square Garden was pure theater. Jalen Brunson was unstoppable, dropping 43 and helping the Knicks build a 17-point fourth-quarter lead. The Garden was shaking, ready to explode, until Aaron Nesmith decided to torch the place. The former role player turned into Reggie Miller for a night, erupting for 30 points and drilling 6 threes in the final 5 minutes to erase the deficit and shock the Knicks. Then, with the Knicks leading by 2, Tyrese Halliburton buried a cold-blooded buzzer beater to silence the crowd to tie the game and send it into overtime, which the Pacers would eventually steal and win Game 1. And the Pacers didn't stop there. Game 2, Pascal Siakam took over, dropping 39 points as Indiana's depth smothered the Knicks in a 114-109 win. Suddenly, the Pacers were up 2-0, and New York was reeling. But Brunson wasn't done. Back at the Garden, he dragged the Knicks back into the fight, scoring 32 in Game 3 to grind out a 106-100 win. Game 4, though, belonged to Halliburton. Brunson kept swinging, but Halliburton responded with one of the best playoff performances you'll ever see. 32 points, 12 rebounds, and 15 assists with 0 turnovers. Nobody's ever done that in the postseason before. The Pacers ran away late, 130-121, pushing New York to the edge. The Knicks refused to fold. Brunson once again carried him with 32 more points in a 111-94 blowout in Game 5, sending the series back to Indiana. But that's where the run ended. Game 6 was all Pacers. They forced 18 turnovers, turned defense into easy buckets, and blew the game open in the third quarter. Siakam poured in 31. Halliburton dished out 13 assists, 11 of them in the fourth quarter alone, as Indiana closed it out 125-108. The Pacers were heading to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2000, and fittingly, Siakam was named Eastern Conference Finals MVP after a steady, dominant series. Then came the NBA Finals, Thunder versus Pacers, experience versus youth, but it never felt like OKC was an inexperienced team. Their pace and length frustrated Indiana from the start, and every time the Pacers looked ready to steal momentum, Shea answered. The series went 7, and Game 7 in Oklahoma City was the coronation. It started with absolute tragedy, with Halliburton tearing his Achilles just midway through the first quarter. For a guy who put up such a heroic playoff run leading this team, it was absolutely heartbreaking. The Thunder blew the game open in the third quarter with a 34-20 run. Shea finished with 29 points and 12 assists. Holmgren added 18 points and 6 blocks. Jalen Williams attacked mismatches all night. When the final buzzer sounded, Oklahoma City was on top of the basketball world for the first time in franchise history. Shea capped it all by winning Finals MVP, becoming just the 4th player ever, joining Kareem, Jordan, and Shaq to win the scoring title, regular season MVP, and Finals MVP in the same season. The 2025 season wasn't just another champion being crowned, it was a declaration. Shea and the Thunder aren't just ahead of schedule, they might be the NBA's next dynasty. And with Ant, Wemby, and other superstars coming, the future of the league has never looked brighter. 6 seasons down, 4 to go. And if there's one thing we've learned about the 2020s, it's that nothing is promised. The Warriors faded. The Lakers reset. The Celtics dominant but now broken. The Nuggets dethroned. And just like that, a team that built through the draft now runs the league. But don't get comfortable. The Thunder might be on top today, but Anthony Edwards is coming for everything. Luka's in LA with a fresh start and no excuses. The Rockets were just the 2 seed and acquired KD. Cade, Paolo, and Mobley look like future studs. Tatum and Halliburton will be back. And Wemby, he's still leveling up and he's already a problem. There are no guarantees in the league anymore, no juggernauts, no unbeatable rosters, just chaos, resilience, and the race to figure it out before anyone else does. The 2020s aren't done. The ending hasn't been written, and whoever rises next, that's who history will remember. So now it's your turn. Drop a comment and tell us, who do you think will own the second half of the decade? Will Shea repeat? Will Wemby dominate? Or are we still waiting for the next great breakout? We'll be watching, and we'll be here to break it all down, season by season. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Because if the first half of the 2020s taught us anything, it's that anything can happen.